The forest breathed. Not in the way trees sway or leaves rustle, but deep, slow, like a sleeping giant inhaling through moss-covered lungs. Towering spires of violet bark spiraled into a sky choked with twin moons, one pale gold, one bruised purple, casting long, shifting shadows across the undergrowth. Bioluminescent fungi pulsed gently along twisted roots, lighting paths only the forest knew. The air smelled thick and sweet, like crushed berries and wet stone, laced with something electric, something ancient. It was here, deep within the Valewood, where 15-year-old Joran stumbled upon the spring. He hadn't meant to come this far. One minute he was chasing a strange, six-legged fox-like creature that had darted past his village's boundary stones. The next, the world twisted. The trees leaned too close, and the path behind him vanished like smoke. His heart hammered against his ribs as he pushed through curtains of glowing vines, his worn boots slipping on slick moss. He was tired, hungry, and more than a little scared. His clothes, a patched tunic and trousers, were torn from thorns, and his dark, unruly hair stuck to his forehead with sweat. He wasn't built for adventure. He was built for mending fences, herding goats, and listening to Old Man Harn ramble about the old days over weak tea. But now, lost in an alien forest that hummed with unseen energy, Joran felt smaller than ever. Then he saw it, the pool. Nestled in a hollow ringed by stone pillars covered in spiraling glyphs, the water shimmered like liquid silver under the moonlight. It didn't ripple, it didn't reflect. It simply was, still and perfect, as if time had paused just for it. A soft, melodic hum vibrated from its surface, low and soothing, like a lullaby sung in a forgotten tongue. Joran dropped to his knees, parched after hours of wandering. He cupped his hands and drank. The water tasted cold and clean at first, like mountain snowmelt. Then came the burn. Not painful but intense, spreading through his veins like fire made of ice. His vision blurred. For a moment, he saw flashes. Stars being born, oceans boiling away, cities rising and crumbling in seconds. He gasped, doubling over, clutching his stomach. When he looked up, she was there. She stood tall, easily a head above any human Joran had ever seen. Her skin a deep ocean blue that seemed to shift in the dim light, catching hues of indigo and twilight. Her hair fell in thick, silken waves of pure white, almost glowing, framing sharp, elegant features and eyes like molten silver. She wore form-fitting armor made of what looked like living metal, etched with patterns that pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. In one hand, she held a slender weapon that hummed with restrained energy, shaped like a crescent blade fused with a staff. She didn't look angry. She looked amused, and deeply, profoundly surprised. "You have no idea what you have just become," she said, her voice smooth and layered, like wind through crystal chimes. She tilted her head, studying him like a puzzle she hadn't expected to find here, in this forgotten corner of the galaxy. Joran wiped his mouth, still feeling the strange warmth inside him. I just drank some water. Is that not allowed?" A soft laugh escaped her, rich and unexpected. "Allowed? No. Fatal? Usually. But you survived. And worse, you changed." Before he could ask what she meant, the ground trembled. From the darkness between the trees, red eyes blinked open, dozens of them. Low growls rumbled through the air, vibrating the very stones beneath them. Creatures emerged. Hulking, insectoid beasts with armored shells and multiple jointed limbs, their mandibles clicking hungrily. They moved with eerie coordination, surrounding the pool. The blue woman spun her weapon effortlessly, the blade igniting with a bright sigh and glow. "Stay behind me, little human," she said, not unkindly. "And try not to scream too loudly." Joran scrambled back as she leapt forward, a blur of motion. Her movements were poetry written in violence. Fluid, precise, deadly. She spun, slashed, and kicked, each strike severing limbs or cracking carapaces with terrifying ease. One beast lunged at her from behind, but she twisted mid-air, driving the tip of her staff into its skull. Collapsed with a wet crunch. Another charged Joran, jaws wide. Instinct took over. He ducked, rolled, and grabbed a loose rock, hurling it at the creature's eye. It screeched, veering off course, just enough for the blue woman to finish it with a swift decapitation. When the last beast fell, twitching in the moss, silence returned, broken only by Joran's ragged breathing. The woman deactivated her weapon and turned to him, wiping black ichor from her cheek with the back of her hand. "You've got spirit," she said. And surprisingly good aim for someone who looks like he's never thrown anything bigger than a pebble. I heard goats, Joran muttered, still shaking. You learn to throw rocks. She smiled. Actually smiled. And it lit up her entire face, making her look suddenly younger, almost human. I'm Lysara, she said, huntress of the Vathari Dominion. And you, boy, are now a walking anomaly. Anomaly? Joran frowned. I just drank water. That water is the heartspring, she explained, pacing around the pool. It's not just water. It's raw evolution, a primordial catalyst used by my people to awaken latent genetic potential. Warriors, seers, leaders, they drink from it before their trials. Most die. Some transform into monsters. Rarely, very rarely, one emerges changed in ways we don't understand. She pointed at him. You should be dead, or insane, or growing extra heads. Instead, you're standing there, blinking like a confused squirrel. Joran looked down at his hands. They looked normal, but he felt different, lighter, sharper, like his thoughts were clearer. His senses tuned to a frequency they'd never caught before. He could hear the pulse of the forest now, the whisper of roots stretching underground, the flutter of tiny winged creatures miles above. He could smell fear on himself, yes, but also the faint trace of something new, something other, lingering in his blood. What happens now? He asked. Lysara crossed her arms. Now I take you with me. You're unstable, dangerous, and if the wrong people find out what you've done, they'll dissect you for sport. Or worse, try to replicate it. Take me where? Joran's voice cracked. To the edge of known space, through nebulous storms and pirate fleets, across ruins older than stars. Where else? She smirked. Somewhere safe. Eventually, Joran groaned. I just wanted to go home. And yet, Lysara said, stepping closer. You drank from a god's fountain in an alien forest. Destiny, little human, has a sense of humor. They left the pool behind, Lysara leading the way with silent, confident strides, while Joran struggled to keep up, his legs still shaky from the transformation. The forest grew stranger the deeper they went. Trees pulsed with internal light, their bark opening and closing like breathing mouths. Floating orbs of light followed them at a distance, curious and silent. Once, a massive vine slithered across their path, retracting into the earth as they approached. How do you know this place so well? Joran asked, panting. I've hunted here before, Lysara said. The Valewood is a sanctuary for things that shouldn't exist. Fugitives, experiments, lost souls. She glanced at him. Now it can add accidental demigod to the list. I'm not a demigod, Joran protested. No, she agreed. But you're not just a farm boy anymore either. As they walked, Joran began to notice changes. His fatigue faded. His cuts healed faster than they should. Once, when a swarm of stinging insects attacked, he moved without thinking, dodging, weaving, even catching one mid-flight and crushing it in his palm. Lysara raised an eyebrow. Reflexes are improving, she noted. Good. You'll need them. Why are you helping me? He asked finally, unable to hold it in. You could have left me, or killed me. Lysara stopped and turned, her silver eyes serious. Because the heartspring doesn't lie, chooses, and it chose you. That means something, even if I don't understand it yet. She softened slightly. Also, you threw a rock at a scar beast. That earns points. Joran managed a weak smile. Thanks. They reached the edge of the forest by dawn, if one could call it dawn. The sky shifted from purple to a deep emerald green as the larger moon dipped below the horizon. Before them stood a clearing, and in the center, half buried in vines and moss, rested a sleek, angular ship shaped like a predatory bird. Its surface shimmered, adjusting to the ambient light. My ride, Lysara said proudly. The Zyra's Fong. It's small, Joran said. For interstellar travel, yes. For crashing into planets, even better. She tapped a sequence on a wrist device, and the ship hissed open, revealing a compact interior lined with glowing panels and strange, organic-looking controls. Get in. Try not to touch anything labeled, "Do not touch." Inside, the air was cool and smelled faintly of ozone and something floral. Joran sat in the co-pilot seat, strapping himself in as the hatch sealed shut. The engines whined to life, a deep vibration humming through the floor. So where are we going? He asked. First orbit, then the outer rim. There's a scholar there, a Vathari elder, who might know what the Heartspring did to you. If we survive the jump. The jump? Lasara grinned. Hold on. The ship shot upward, tearing through the canopy in a burst of speed. Joran yelped as gravity pressed him into his seat. Below, the veil would shrank into a glowing patch of wilderness, then vanished as they pierced the atmosphere. Stars exploded into view, thousands of them, brighter and more numerous than Joran had ever imagined. Earth's night sky was a dim candle compared to this cosmic blaze. Whoa, he whispered. First time in space? Lasara asked, adjusting course. First time outside my village, he admitted. She laughed again, and this time Joran found himself smiling too. Maybe it was the adrenaline. Maybe it was the fact that he wasn't dead. Or maybe it was just nice to hear laughter in a universe that had tried to eat him twice already. Their journey wasn't smooth. Barely 2 systems out, they were flagged by a patrol of scavenger drones, autonomous machines that stripped derelict ships and sometimes living ones, if they were slow enough. Red alarms flashed as the drones locked on. Buckle up, Lasara said calmly, flipping switches. We're going evasive. The Zyra's Fong twisted through space, dodging plasma bolts that sizzled past the hull. Joran gripped the armrests, his stomach flipping with every turn. Lasara fired back with pinpoint accuracy, her targeting system locking onto drone weak points. One by one, they exploded in silent bursts of light. But then a signal pinged on her console, urgent, encrypted. She frowned, pulling up a holographic message. A distorted voice crackled through. Lasara Vaynor, you are in violation of Dominion Law 7.4. Unauthorized extraction of a bioanomaly. Return the subject immediately, or face consequences. Joran froze. Subject? That's me, isn't it? Lasara closed the message with a swipe. Yes, that's you. Are you taking me back? She looked at him, her expression unreadable. Then she hit a button, sending a countermessage. Negative. Anomaly is unstable. Returning would risk contamination. Joran exhaled slowly. You lied. I improvised. She corrected. There's a difference. But why? Why protect me? Because, she said, steering the ship into a swirling nebula for cover. If the Dominion wanted you dead, they wouldn't send a warning. They'd send an extermination squad. This is bureaucracy, which means you're valuable. And if you're valuable, I want to know why before anyone else does. Joran didn't know whether to feel relieved or terrified. But one thing was clear. Lasara wasn't just a hunter. She was playing a deeper game. Days passed in the quiet hum of the ship. Joran learned to navigate the basic systems, helped Lasara repair a damaged thruster array, using tools that looked like they belonged in a dream, and even attempted cooking in the micro-kitchen, which ended with a small fire and Lasara muttering something about primitive digestion methods. In return, she taught him things. About the Vathari, a near-immortal species scattered across galaxies, guardians of ancient knowledge. About the Heartspring, which was rumored to be a fragment of the first seed, the mythical origin of all life. And about the dangers waiting in the void. Warlords who harvested genetic material, rogue AI that mimicked souls, and cults that worshipped entropy itself. One night, as the ship drifted through a field of frozen comets, Joran sat by the observation window, watching the ice glitter under distant starlight. Lasara joined him, handing him a steaming mug of something blue and fragrant. What's this? He asked. Vathari tea. Good for clarity. Also mildly hallucinogenic. Don't drink too much. He sipped it. Tasted like mint and lightning. Do you miss your people? He asked quietly. Lasara stared into her own cup. Sometimes, but duty calls louder than nostalgia. And lately, I felt like something was missing, like the hunt had grown predictable. Then I found you, drinking from the Heartspring like it was a roadside well. She shook her head. You're chaos in a universe that fears it. I think I needed that. Joran didn't know how to respond. He just nodded, sipping his tea, feeling the warmth spread through him. For the first time since leaving home, he didn't feel entirely lost. Their peace didn't last. The alert blared without warning. Proximity alarm. Multiple contacts. Fast-moving. Lasara was on her feet instantly. Not Dominion. Too aggressive. Pirates. Or worse, Reavers. Reavers. Mercenaries. Genetic thieves. They'll rip you apart just to see how the Heartspring works. On the view screen, 3 jagged, asymmetrical ships emerged from behind a comet cluster, weapons charging. No signals. No demands. Just attack vectors. We can't outrun them, Lasara said, fingers flying over controls. We fight. Joran's heart pounded. I don't know how to fight. You don't need to, she said, tossing him a small, disc-shaped device. Just press this when I say, and whatever you do, don't let them board. The battle was a storm of light and noise. Lasara piloted with furious grace, spinning the Zyra's Fong through enemy fire, returning blasts with precision. One Reaver ship exploded in a chain reaction. The second launched boarding pods, spider-like craft that latched onto the hull with metallic claws. Alarms screamed. Pressure warnings flashed. They're inside, Joran yelled. Now, Lasara shouted. He slammed the disc. A pulse wave erupted from the ship's core, invisible but devastating. Through the hull cameras, they watched as the boarding pods convulsed, their occupants collapsing as neural feedback overloaded their systems. The third Reaver ship, caught in the fringe of the pulse, spun wildly out of control before vanishing into the comet field. Silence returned. Smoke curled from a damaged panel. Lasara slumped in her chair, breathing hard. You okay? Joran asked. She gave a tired smile. Still breathing. You? I think I just saved us. You did. She looked at him, really looked. And you didn't panic. Impressive. Joran grinned, giddy with relief. Guess I'm learning. But the victory was short-lived. As they limped toward the outer rim, the ship's systems began to fail. The Heartspring's energy within Joran was destabilizing the navigation matrix. His very presence was interfering with technology. We can't land like this, Lasara said, frustrated. If your energy spikes during descent, we'll crash. So what do we do? She studied him. There's a moon nearby, uninhabited, primal. We set down there. I stabilized the ship. You learn to control it. Control what? The power inside you, before it controls you. They landed on a rocky moon bathed in eternal twilight, its surface cracked with geothermal vents that spat plumes of steam. Strange, six-winged bats circled overhead. Lasara worked tirelessly, rewiring circuits, recalibrating shields. Joran wandered the perimeter trying to focus. Close your eyes, she instructed. Feel the energy. It's not yours by birth, but it's yours by choice. Breathe with it. Move with it. He tried. First nothing. Then, a tingling in his chest. A warmth spreading outward. He opened his eyes, and the rocks around him glowed faintly, responding to his pulse. Again, Lasara urged. But slower, gentle. He focused, imagining the energy like water, flowing, not rushing. The glow stabilized. He lifted a hand, and a small stone rose with it, hovering. Lasara's breath caught. Telekinesis. Early stage. Remarkable. Joran laughed. Giddy. I'm doing magic. It's biology, she corrected, but she was smiling. Advanced biology. Night fell or what passed for it. They sat by a fire Lasara had ignited with a handheld tool, roasting something that resembled a cross between a potato and a squid. Joran told her about his village, his goat named Bristle, how he once fell into the river trying to impress a girl who didn't even like him. Lasara listened, genuinely interested. You humans, she said, shaking her head. So fragile, so loud, so alive. And you? He asked. What's your story? She hesitated. I was bred for war, trained from birth, never questioned, until I saw what we did in the name of order. The lives erased, the world silenced. She looked at the stars. I became a hunter, yes, but I hunt the hunters now, those who abuse power, like the ones who would take you apart for study. Joran nodded slowly. Then I'm glad you found me. She met his gaze. So am I. The next morning they prepared to leave. But as they approached the ship, a shadow fell over them. A massive vessel descended from the clouds. A sleek, obsidian dreadnought bearing the insignia of the Vathari Dominion. Lasara cursed under her breath. They followed us. The ramp lowered. Armed figures in black armor stepped out, led by a tall, severe Vathari male with crimson markings on his temples. Lasara Vaynor, he intoned. You stand accused of treason, concealment of a biohazard, and defiance of direct order. Surrender the subject. Joran stepped forward. I'm not a subject. I'm Joran. The commander sneered. You are an accident, a flaw in nature, and you will be contained. Lasara moved to block them, weapon drawn. He's not yours to take. The standoff crackled with tension. Joran felt the energy inside him surge, responding to his fear, his anger. The ground trembled. Rocks lifted into the air. The commander raised his hand. Fire! Blaster bolts streaked toward them. Joran didn't think. He reacted. A shield of shimmering force erupted around them, deflecting the shots. The energy poured from him, wild but protective. He screamed, not in pain but in release. Lysara stared at him, awed. "You're not just changed," she whispered. "You're awakening." The battle had just begun. 3 years bled into the stars like ink in water. Joran was no longer the boy who stumbled through alien forests with dirt on his knees and fear in his throat. He stood taller now, nearly matching Lysara's height. His frame lean and strong from survival, training, and the constant hum of power beneath his skin. His dark hair had grown longer, often tied back with a strip of woven synth leather, and his eyes, once wide with confusion, now held the quiet fire of someone who had seen too much, endured more, and still chosen to walk forward. He moved differently, too. Not just with confidence, but with rhythm, like the universe had taught him its tempo and he'd learned to dance with it. The Heartspring's gift had settled into him. No longer a storm, but a deep river, flowing steady and true. He could summon energy shields without thought, lift entire debris fields with a gesture, even sense disturbances in space-time before they happened. But more than that, he had learned control, not just over his power, but over himself. And through it all, there was Lysara. She hadn't changed much on the outside. Her blue skin still shimmered under starlight. Her white hair still fell like frozen moonlight, and her silver eyes still scanned the galaxy like a predator assessing prey. But something had softened in her. Something only Joran ever saw. A pause before a sharp remark. A glance held a second too long. The way she'd leave his favorite ration bar untouched in the storage unit. Even though she claimed she hated the flavor. They had spent those 3 years drifting between systems, between wars, between truths. They dodged Dominion patrols, slipped through asteroid belts thick with wreckage, and once survived an entire week inside the hollowed corpse of a dead Leviathan floating between galaxies. They stole supplies from corrupt trade lords, brokered uneasy truces with rogue android colonies, and even helped a race of amphibious beings reclaim their flooded homeworld, all while searching for answers about what Joran truly was. But the deeper they went, the less the answers mattered. It started with small things. The way she'd wake him gently when nightmares clawed at his sleep, visions of the pool, of screaming beasts, of losing her. She never asked what he saw. She just placed a hand on his shoulder until his breathing slowed. Or how he began mending her armor after battles, learning the delicate circuits of Vathari tech not because he had to, but because he liked seeing her move without a limp. One night, stranded on a frozen moon with the Zyra's Fong buried under ice, they huddled together for warmth. No words, just shared breath, fogging the air between them as they leaned side by side in the dim glow of emergency lights. "You're warmer than you look," he muttered, half-joking. "And you snore like a malfunctioning droid," she replied, but she didn't pull away. He laughed, low and warm, and something shifted, like a door creaking open in a house neither knew existed. After that, the silence between them wasn't empty. It was full of glances, of near touches, of unspoken thoughts circling like comets too afraid to land. Then came the day on Xeris 9, a ruined planet, scorched by an ancient war, its surface cracked with glowing fissures. They'd gone there chasing a rumor, a lost archive said to hold records of the first seed, the origin point of the Heartspring. What they found instead was a trap. The Reavers had returned, led by a cybernetic warlord named Krax who had sworn vengeance since their last encounter. The battle was brutal. Lysara fought like fury given form, her crescent blade staff carving through enemies. But she was outnumbered. One of Krax's soldiers landed a blow to her side, a plasma spike piercing her armor. She fell. Joran saw red. Not metaphorically, literally. His vision flared crimson, the air around him crackling with raw energy. The ground shattered beneath his feet as he charged forward, moving faster than should be possible. He didn't think. He didn't plan. He unleashed. Shields erupted, blasts fired from his hands like cannon shots, and when Krax lunged at him with a jagged energy axe, Joran caught the blade barehanded and crushed it. In seconds, the battlefield was silent. The remaining Reavers fled. Joran dropped to his knees beside Lysara, tearing open her armor. The wound was bad, deep, cauterized at the edges, but still bleeding blackish blood. Her breath came in shallow gasps. "Don't you dare die," he whispered, voice breaking. Not after everything. She smiled weakly. You yell too much. I'll yell louder if you don't hold on. He placed his hands over the wound, closing his eyes. He didn't know healing. He didn't know medicine. But he knew her. He knew the rhythm of her pulse, the frequency of her voice, the way her energy signature flickered like distant stars. And he knew the heartspring flowed in him, not just power, but life. So he gave it. Energy poured from his palms, golden and warm, seeping into her body. Her skin glowed faintly where he touched. The wound sealed slowly, cell by cell, as if time itself reversed. When it was done, he collapsed beside her, drained, trembling. She turned her head to look at him. You idiot, she whispered. You could have killed yourself. Would have been worth it, he said, smiling weakly. And then, without warning, she hugged him. It wasn't long, barely a breath. Soft, hesitant, like she was testing gravity for the first time. But it burned brighter than any supernova. When she pulled back, her silver eyes were wide. Surprised, maybe even scared. I shouldn't have done that, she said. Why not? Joran asked, heart hammering. Because I'm a Vathari huntress. You're human, mortal. This path leads to pain. And what path doesn't? He countered. We've been running from death since the day we met. But we're still here. Together. She looked away. I've lived centuries. My people don't love like yours do. It's not in our design. Maybe that's the point, he said softly. You weren't designed to feel this. But you do. And so do I. She didn't answer. Not then. But that night, as they camped in the ruins of an ancient temple, she sat beside him. Not across the fire, but beside, close enough that their arms brushed. And when he fell asleep, she didn't move away. From then on, things changed. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. But in the quiet ways that matter most. She started calling him Kalen. An old Vathari word meaning stormborn. Said it fit him better than farm boy. He started leaving little things for her. A smooth stone from a desert world. A flower that bloomed only under twin suns. A song he'd heard on a distant radio wave. Recorded and played back in the ship's cabin. They still argued about tactics, about food. She still hated his cooking. About whether stealing from slavers counted as justice or just piracy. But the fights never lasted. One would crack a joke. The other would roll their eyes. And soon they'd be laughing again. One evening, as the Zyra's Fong drifted through the rings of a gas giant, painting the cabin in shifting hues of amber and violet, Lasara sat cross-legged on the floor, cleaning her weapon. Joran watched her. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't drunk from the pool? She didn't look up. I wonder what would have happened if I'd ignored the signal that day. If I'd just marked the Veilwood as unstable and moved on. And, she finally met his gaze. I'd still be hunting. Still alone. Still following orders like a perfect soldier. Faint smile. I'd be bored out of my mind. He grinned. So I'm your entertainment now? You're my complication, she said. And I wouldn't trade it. He reached over, gently taking her hand. Her skin was cool, but he felt the warmth beneath. The pulse of her life, steady and strong. I don't know how long humans live compared to your kind, he said quietly. 50 years? 80? Maybe 100 if I avoid getting shot. She didn't pull away. And I want to spend every one of them with you, even if it drives you crazy. She exhaled, long and slow. Then, with a softness that surprised even her, she turned her hand and laced her fingers with his. Then you'd better not die on me, Kalen, she murmured. Because I'm not letting you go. The journey didn't end. The Dominion still hunted them. The truth about the Heartspring remained hidden. Whispers spoke of a coming storm, an ancient force stirring beyond the galactic rim, drawn by the surge of energy Joran had released during the battle on Xeris 9. But none of that mattered in the moment. Here, in the quiet hum of the ship, beneath a sky painted with the light of dying stars, two souls, so different, so broken, so alive, held on to each other. Not as hunter and anomaly, not as alien and human, but as partners, as equals, as love, unexpected and fierce, blazing across the void. The years folded into one another like the wings of a great bird riding cosmic winds. Joran was 21 now, no longer a boy, nor even just a man, but something more. A bridge between species, a living echo of forgotten origins, tempered not by power alone, but by choice, by heart. Lasara had stopped counting her age long ago. Centuries etched into her kind's biology, but for the first time, she began to measure time not in missions or kills, but in moments. The way Joran smiled when he fixed the ship's failing engine with nothing but instinct and stubbornness. How he'd hum off-key songs from his home world while cleaning weapons. The warmth of his hand finding hers in silence, as if to say, I'm still here. They had outrun empires, outwitted warlords, and survived the collapse of entire star systems. They had faced the truth buried in the ruins of the first archive, that the Heartspring was not merely a tool, but a seed of consciousness, a remnant of the universe's first breath, and Joran wasn't just changed by it. He was its warden, chosen not by design, but by resonance. His soul had matched its frequency. And Lasara? She had been sent not to capture him, but to guide him. The visions she'd suppressed, the dreams of blue fire and silver pools, they weren't warnings. They were memories waiting to be remembered. Together, they had become something neither fate nor prophecy could have scripted. And so, on the floating garden moon of Elora 7, a sanctuary hidden in the folds of a dying nebula, where flowers bloomed in zero gravity and rivers flowed upward into the sky, they decided to stop running. Not because the dangers had vanished. No, the Dominion still hunted. The ancient force beyond the rim still stirred. But they had learned that peace was not the absence of war. It was the courage to build something beautiful amidst it. The ceremony was small. No grand temples. No armies of witnesses. Just the two of them, barefoot on a platform of living crystal suspended above a sea of glowing mist. The air shimmered with pollen-like lights, drifting like stars caught in a slow dance. A gentle wind carried the scent of nectar and distant rain. Joran wore a simple tunic woven from moon silk, gifted by a nomadic tribe they'd saved from slavers. Lasara wore ceremonial armor softened by time, its edges inlaid with vines of living silver, grown from a seed she'd carried since childhood. A symbol of rebirth. There was no priest, no law, no book to recite from, only the universe watching in quiet reverence. They spoke their vows not in words, but in truths. Joran went first. I was nobody, he said, voice steady, eyes locked on hers. Just a kid who wanted to matter. And then I drank from a pool I didn't understand, and everything changed. But the thing that matters most, the thing that made me real, was you. You didn't see a weapon or a specimen. You saw me, even when I couldn't. So I choose you, not because you saved me, but because you let me become who I was meant to be. Lasara exhaled, her silver eyes glistening. Not with tears, Vathari didn't cry, but something deeper, something older than water. Emotion made visible. I was built to obey, she said. To hunt, to erase. I thought purpose was in duty, but you taught me it's in choice, in love, in staying, even when every instinct says to leave. You are my storm, Joran, my chaos, my balance, and I am yours, not as guardian, not as hunter, but as your equal, your wife. They clasped hands. Then, in an old Vathari tradition, they pressed their foreheads together, allowing their energy signatures to intertwine. A bond recognized across lifetimes. A soft chime echoed through the air, as if the moon itself approved. And then, under a sky painted violet and gold, they kissed long, deep, full of all the journeys behind them and all the ones yet to come. They didn't live in a palace. They didn't rule a galaxy. They settled in a small dwelling carved into the side of a luminous cliff, overlooking a valley where bioluminescent trees pulsed in rhythm with their breath. The Zyra's Fong rested nearby, docked in a hidden cove, forever ready, but rarely needed. Joran taught the local children, humans, aliens, hybrids alike, how to listen to the world, how to feel the energy in all things. He never called it magic. He called it awareness. Lasara trained those who sought protection, teaching them not just to fight, but to protect life, not take it. Together they became legends, not for war, but for peace forged in fire. And when night fell, they sat on their balcony, wrapped in each other's arms, watching comets streak across the heavens. Do you ever miss it? Joran asked one evening. The chase? The danger? Lasara smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. I had a lifetime of danger. Now I have a lifetime of you. That's the real adventure. He laughed, pulling her closer. Good answer. Years passed. Decades. Their story became myth, whispered in starports, sung by travelers, written in data crystals across the spiral arms. The human who drank the stars. The huntress who fell in love with a storm. They grew older. Joran's hair turned streaked with gray, his face lined with laughter and sun seen. Lysara's skin faded slightly, her white hair gaining threads of silver, her movements slower, but no less graceful. The universe aged around them. Empires rose and fell. New species evolved. The ancient threat beyond the rim was met, not with war, but with unity, led by the legacy of two souls who had proven that love could be the strongest force in existence. And when their time finally came, on a quiet morning when the twin suns of Elora 7 rose in perfect alignment, they left together, hand in hand, not with sorrow, but with peace, because they had lived fully, loved deeply, fought bravely, and built a future brighter than any star. And somewhere, in the endless tapestry of space and time, a new pool glimmers, small, hidden, waiting. And beside it, carved into stone in a language no one remembers, are two names, Joran and Lysara. Forever begins here,